Stuff I'm revealing to you, things that you don't hear about. Demons are real.
Welcome to our show. As you know, this is a kind of show that you really want to listen to and really listen closely because some of the subjects may actually pertain to you. We're going to have people calling in with their various issues, actually pertaining to demonic issues. So, any of you that may have those types of issues, we do welcome and encourage you to call in because we happen to have one of the best panels, okay, the best shows on the internet. But most of all our panel members are the best. Oh my, I'm going to just share a little bit with you as to who these people are. And for those of you that know them, well, then you know why I'm so excited to have them on this show. We have an absolutely outstanding person who is not physically with us, and that would be the Bishop Dr. Joshua. Unfortunately, he is not here. If he was, I'd be boasting about him because he's been with me for years. I know all about this man. He loves people and he loves to share what he knows about God and all the answers about the supernatural. So let me just say that I'm introducing his name. He's not here, obviously. But we do have everyone else. We have, of course, I was going to say the famous. He's more of a legend. We have Dr. Adrian. Dr. Adrian is such a wonderful man. And the more you come on this show and listen to the show, you'll see why I say that. His actions speak louder than his words, but yet when his words come out, you really want to listen. He has tremendous input. He's been a psychiatrist for over half a century. He has taught in the finest universities, and he is so highly respected, especially here on this program. I'm so happy that he's my friend, and he is fantastic. Hello, Dr. Adrian. Thank you for honoring us with your presence. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, for the nice words.
and that's talking badly about you. You should see what I really want to say about this man. Okay, let's get to Dr. Glenn. Reverend Dr. Glenn is he himself is like a modern day Indiana Jones. Okay, the reason I say that is he has lots of experience in the jungle. That is, he's actually seen wild animals up close and personal. He is like, he's more than just a zookeeper. He happens to be a warrior of God. He is an exorcist, a genuine exorcist. He's helped people that had demonic issues. He's helped people that no one else would want to help because of all the strange things that happen when a person is being possessed by the demonic or having some type of demonic issues. Things happen. And you have to be brave enough, as this man is. Dr. Glenn, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Archbishop.
Yes. And then, of course, we have our highly skilled technicians. One is actually in Hawaii right now. It's amazing. I wanted to invite everyone to go to Hawaii. If I would have known she was going to Hawaii, I would have said, "Come on, guys, let's go to Hawaii." We could have had the show in Hawaii, but unfortunately, I just found out. Anyway, she's in the jungle right now, as you can see in her background. Hi, Desiree. Thank you for being here. And
Hello,
Mercedes, of course,
everyone.
is also
Peace
standing
and
by.
blessing.
So say hi, girls.
Hi,
Hi.
everyone. Hey,
And we just
God bless
want
everyone.
to, we definitely want to say that we're doing Desiree is doing an amazing thing, being able to even keep the show going today from Hawaii. So if there's any technical difficulties, well, we are sorry. We are going to do the best we can to keep everything going flawlessly.
I was in Hawaii last year, Desiree, and
Oh, fantastic.
yeah, yes.
A lot of
It's my first time.
Pardon?
say there's a lot of demons in Hawaii, aren't there? I saw it here.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff going on, and Dr. Adrian, we've talked about the Ho'oponopono and the Hawaiian healers and things a lot too on the show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the first time I went to Hawaii, I was on a troop ship, and that wasn't pleasant at all. But the second time was on a cruise liner, and that was much more pleasant.
Wow.
And
Right, right. Yeah.
the food
I'm
was much
learning
different too.
a lot about that.
When I was on a military ship, the food was nothing to write home about. The cruise ship, it really was.
Oh,
Boy, amazing.
Ah, well,
Well,
no, it is very nice. Everybody here is very, very, very kind, very loving, very gentle. It's been very, I have nothing but great things to say.
fantastic, fantastic. We got a kind of a start late today because the time difference. That is, our co-producer was in Hawaii, so it took a little time for her to get the links up and so on. So here we are, though. We're just a few minutes late. That's all.
Thank you.
We're gonna start this with a prayer. Now, the prayer, of course, is a prayer of protection. We say this because we're going to be getting a lot of interesting and talking about a lot of interesting subjects, and people are going to be contacting us from the outside, and we may have some people that may call with not exactly great intentions, and so we want to make sure that we are protected, at least spiritually, and we do that by just opening up with a prayer. So we're going to do that right now. The Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Amen. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our defense against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruins of souls. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Okay, now this is the most important part of the show. It starts with the beginning. And then we're going to go through, and we're going to hear a lot of questions in the middle. And then we're going to probably wind up and close the show by the last question. So we're going to get started right now. So, what questions do we have, girls?
okay. We definitely have some great questions today from our audience. And I do want to say on your audio, Archbishop Ron, I am hearing a slight repeat, but it's very low. So if that is happening, Desiree maybe can fix that on her end, hopefully. And if not, I just want the audience to know that we will try our best to fix it if it's something that you all can hear. Here is the first question. Are narcissism and other dark personality disorders ever connected to demonic influence, or is it strictly a psychological issue?
That's a really, really great question. I still hear the echo. I don't know if it's coming from.
Can you repeat the first part of the question? I didn't hear the first part. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, now I want to address this first, and then we'll get the opinions of our other highly skilled experts here in regards to this category. I'm going to say that I have dealt with serial killers. I've dealt with famous serial killers. I've had the displeasure of actually meeting one in an elevator, and it was quite nerve wracking. I'll tell you one thing: they're not very nice people. In fact, they have horrible personalities, I might say, and you can tell by their motives. But one interesting thing about people that have dark dark appearances, if you will, by what you could feel the negativity coming from. You could see it. You can look in their eyes, and all their eyes seem to be the same. They have this soulless image coming out from the eyes. You don't see any real life in those eyes. They're like dead eyes, as if there's somebody else actually controlling their bodies and mind. The darkness, you can just feel darkness when you walk into a room and you know someone who is coming out of darkness or in darkness. You could just feel the tension in the room. It's amazing. Um, as for whether or not it's a psychosis, well, we rely on experts. When we come into that type of scenario, okay, I will do an assessment, but along with my team, but I rely on people like Dr. Adrian because he's a psychiatrist and he knows about, and he's also a spiritual psychologist. Yes, psychiatrist. He knows all about these type of dark behaviors, and I'm going to like turn it over to him, the expert, and perhaps maybe he could elaborate a bit. Dr. Adrian?
Yeah. Well, I think there are different categories of narcissism, but the main characteristic of a narcissist is the lack of capacity to love. These individuals may be very sophisticated, very intelligent. Um, their IQ is very high many times, and they function in different places of public position, and nobody would know that they are narcissists because they are so intelligent that they cover it up. And the thing is, you would think that they love themselves a lot, like Narcissus that was looking in the water, according to Greek mythology, and fell into the water and sunk. But the point is, no, if they would really love themselves, they would love others as well, because you cannot love others unless you love yourself. They think that they do, which is a very, you know, detached from reality, you know, belief that they have. But to come back to narcissism, another category of them is what Archbishop Ronald pointed out, the criminals. Um, the ones that we can see day by day in the television these days behind bars,
Yeah.
and they look, you look into their eyes, which is the window to the soul, as they say, as Archbishop Ron noted. But you see there, you see the soulness there, and it's very frightening. Then I had, as a psychiatrist, because I had the door open to everyone to come to me. Sometimes people like that, and I had horrible situations. One of them, I remember correctly that I almost was killed by one of them, but locked himself with me in the room at night when I was on call in the hospital as a young doctor. And he said, "I hate you all. I'm going to kill you all." He had a knife, put it on. He was a big guy, and he could have overcome me. But, he needed something. These narcissists need um, to caress their narcissism. And, but I told them, because they're afraid of all of their own inability to control themselves and to do chaos and to kill even. But so I looked straight into his eyes. I got a second wind, and I looked with all the love that I could gather in my eyes instead of being soulless. And I looked into his eyes, And I told him because he's afraid of losing control. I said, this is a big hospital. We have a lot of people, strong people here that can help you to
Mhm.
put your thoughts and feelings together so you will be safe. And that we want you well, and we're all here, not just me, but everyone to help you to, because me, what can I do? Say a little man there. So I said, well, and he was like shocked because he was holding the knife and he was threatening and all this, and I was locked with him, and the police were not doing their job because they shouldn't have done that. They should have searched him first. But anyway, then all of a sudden he felt his narcissism put in place. He felt caressed on his narcissism. He felt the love that coming from outside that he never thought that there is to put his thoughts and feelings together. So all of a sudden, he sat on the chair with the knife on the table and burst into tears.
Mm.
And it's ended. I told my residents, my students that, but I told them not to do it at home.
It's good advice, actually.
So that's another category. Another category is, there are a lot of these young souls, immature souls, that, by the way, the other categories are also immature souls. In other
Mhm.
words, they haven't got enough life experiences to mature.
Yeah.
So this category is, borderline personality,
Mhm.
and you find a lot of them that do a lot of drugs and things and get into trouble with the police with antisocial acts and things like, but they are not criminals really. But and this is narcissism. um, to say the devil, I'm a spiritual psychiatrist, you pointed out, Archbishop, and I looked at the spiritual part. Yes, it's true. Many times I can see the evil in them, that it's man-made, by the way, including the devil, evil devil. So it's man-made because God didn't create the devil. God created good. God. God created God. And God is the greatest of doctors. But anyway, so I really think that sometimes I wonder how comes we have the free choice given by God. We're made in God's image and likeness. We have so much power, control to fight the monster in our dreams, in our life that is also sometimes a nightmare. And and then what happens? We cannot uh, have the full faith that God gave us, this resemblance, and also the power is within us everywhere, God. And and we have doubt. We have, oh yeah, I'm praying, but it's empty words. You have to do it fervently with all your heart to believe in order to be true. Faith is not belief without truth, but trust without reservation. And I think that, yes, the answer to the question of the questioner is, it's clear that many times, if there are any categories of people who would have the devil infiltrated continuously or intermittently, or any involvement with that, would be these narcissists.
Okay.
What is the treatment? The psychoanalysts don't want to take them in psychoanalysis
Yeah.
because they say, well, they flunk when they go to the analyst. They say, no, I cannot help you. All right. So, because they can't, only God can.
Yeah. There's a major reason why we see from time to time a surgeon along with the nurse and operating staff would make a circle and pray to God and ask God to direct their hands and to give them the insight they need in order to save someone's life. This happens in quite a few hospitals, by the way. Very few people are not aware of that. But if you have your skill, such as Dr. Adrian has a skill, but he has a skill set along with his belief system. Okay, and you combine the two, and you become a very powerful individual. I mean, because you make things happen. It's not really the doctor that's doing it; it's really God working through the doctor, and for these things to happen. And it's just extremely important. Um, and then also, I wanted to say something real brief, and I want to turn this over to Dr. Glenn. The the issue with drugs, for example, a lot of people could have a normal mind, if you will, or at least healthy mind, but if he's introduced to drugs, something happens. There's a breakdown in the mind. There's a breakdown in your natural defenses, and as a result, lots of darkness can. Unfortunately, I hear a feedback.
The voice of a female.
I think it was Desiree.
Sound like Desiree. Sound like it. Well, I was just simply gonna make a brief mention about the case that it was in Florida, where the individual took some substance that to alter their mood, and as a result, became what was viewed as what looked like a zombie. And this person ate their face, literally ate their face off. It was a very, very famous case that occurred a few years ago in Florida. It was
Right.
a substance called bath salt, and I guess it's a form of it's a terrible poison that a person will take to try to escape the reality of our world. And doing so, you lose yourself completely because of the drug, which takes over, which takes effect of the mind, and certain things start happening, and you're open to all forms of darkness. I thought that was a really interesting case to make, but also I know this for a fact that in third world countries there are a lot of influence by the darkness, and I know that Reverend Doctor Glenn can probably talk more about that. But most of all, he could also talk about what he knows about this horrible, horrible human condition that we've been talking about, Doctor.
Yes, it's been pretty thoroughly covered, but I would say this. Although I have experience working as a chaplain in a mental hospital, uh, and I'd want to make the broad general statement that many of the patients in the mental hospital had both and. That is, both they had a severe mental illness and also demonic infiltration. As far as narcissism is concerned, I'm also a marriage and family therapist, and I would say that in doing marriage and family, but they were one of the partners in the marriage was a narcissist. It was almost always unsuccessful in terms of being able to help them build a solid, loving, caring relationship. So I don't think I could say anything more because I'd be just redundant what both of you have said. So it can be both and rather than either or. And in terms of a marriage relationship, the person who isn't a narcissist is really carrying a heavy burden.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You heard of the that preacher Jim Jones? He was had a
Yeah,
ministry in the West Coast. You talk about a person that falls into that profile. And it's interesting. At the very end of his ministry, he had all of them take and literally drink the Kool Aid, if you will. 900 bodies were discovered. They were all there. They all drank and did a group suicide ritual, if you will. And of course, he was the last one to go. And it's interesting. There was no religious materials that were found among the bodies. They were all following the man who just viewed himself as a godlike type of individual.
Originally from
Okay. I'm trying to make contact with Desiree, but she's not hearing me, so I apologize.
Oh, it's
Desiree, can you hear us? Okay, there must be, it just must be some difficult situation with the
This kind of reminds me of a situation where I was dealing with a group of people that were gathered around a crystal ball, and they were all doing a séance. And when I walked into the room, they all quiet out. It sounds like this type of scenario. I hear that voice coming in, and it's creeping in, and it sounds like it's one of those supernatural events. Um, do we have another question, Mercedes?
Yes.
Let's try to do this if we can.
Yes. Here is the second question.
Okay.
Okay. Are there demonic forces that mimic disorders, such disorders as schizophrenia, and DID, dissociative identity disorder?
Uh,
So, are there any
I keep,
demonic
I
forces
keep
that
hearing
will?
I keep hearing Desiree breaking in, so I couldn't hear what you said.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. I put it on the chat. Hopefully, she can see she can see what we're doing. It says, "Are there demonic forces that can
Gosh,
mimic disorders
I
such as
really
schizophrenia and
Okay.
DID, dissociative identity disorder?"
See,
Yeah. I've only heard parts of it. I hear Desiree's voice coming in.
I'm hearing I'm hearing a voice too. I have to question my own sanity sometimes, and
Maybe the devil is here too.
maybe we're all psychotic, and we all have schizophrenia. I don't know. And a serious note, I'm going to have Dr. Adrian. He's the expert in this. I can tell you what I know, and what I believe in regards to these type of disorders. I will tell you that demonic oppression is a very real thing, and can trigger off a lot of these various disorders. Now, again, that's just my opinion. I'm going to switch it over to the doctor and see if Dr. Adrian can shed some light on this.
Yeah, thank you. I had plenty of experiences with schizophrenics and with psychosis, bipolar psychosis when it's a psychosis, but many times bipolar is okay. It's not that troubling. But what the common element here is of narcissism, because these people, um, and they're narcissists. By the way, sometimes you never thought that one of them would become schizophrenic, and they do, especially after disinhibiting themselves with drugs and alcohol. Um, as long as the conscious mind has the defenses, the ego, it keeps under control the fear and the defense against it. But the moment the defenses are broken by drugs and alcohol, all these problems explode. And they get for the first time schizophrenia when they start being in touch with drugs, in my opinion, but also otherwise, around the ages 25 or something like that, like schizophrenia. By I'll tell you, when there is also an affective element there, there is something with the mood swings like bipolar, manic depressive disorder, things like that. But most of the bipolar seem to be functional and very smart individuals, very happy and humorous, and a lot of actors, very successful ones, are that, and they are functional, but they need some treatment. Uh, at times, they need a lot of treatment, especially when they drink and when they take drugs. So um, that's in terms of description of what is the uh, commonality, which is narcissism in these syndromes or diseases that are the most severe in our psychiatric work as psychiatrists. And many times, to my chagrin, I can say nothing works. Though I have isolated cases that, were very smart individuals, and they succeeded, and I helped them with spiritual psychiatry, invoking God. Like in the first half of my career, and spanning about 50, 60 years. I, 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 I didn't talk about God in my therapy, and in the last 30 years, I do that, and the results are astonishingly much better.
Sure.
Uh, so, so that's why when I'm going to give a speech somewhere, they invite me. The doctor say because they believe in science. Science. I respect science, but science is just part of it. I think. Say don't talk about God, Dr. Finkelstein. I say, but yeah, but if I don't talk about God, then God will speak for me.
Oh,
So,
well,
so, but you know better than me that as clergy, and you understand that sometimes you cannot help these people, but just with drugs, because what you do, you don't take the devil away, but you come and block the pathways in the nervous system with some chemical, right? And they call it chemical imbalance. And
mhm.
in order to have it's true it's a chemical imbalance, it's not a lie, but that's not the only thing. And to look only for that and for drugs and for pharma and for all these things, it's sort of not doing the whole job.
That's right.
And the whole job is we have to do our best, and God has to do the infinite rest.
Yeah. Absolutely true. I live in Los Angeles, so I see these people all around me, and I'm talking about living people who will be screaming to the top of their lungs, talking to themselves, swinging their arms very violently. Um, and one person might even think that this could be a sign of demonic possession, but in reality, all these things are self-induced by chemicals, by various drugs that will actually alter, mood altering drugs, which is all self, inflicted, and it's really sad. Dr. Glenn, I'm sure you've had a lot of experience with the same kind of scenario, or at least witnessed. What would you say?
Yes, also, I would want to say too uh, that I think, as I shared with you, when I was working at a halfway house, people had come out of the Georgia Mental Health Institute, and we had them as patients to make a transition.
Hmm.
Is that the drug use definitely made the psychiatric attempts to help them did not prove effective. And so I am also convinced what the doctor is referring to that sometimes through drug use, the demon gets a hand in that. And it may be schizophrenia, but it also may be schizophrenia and demonic oppression at the same time. And so just the area that I worked in or with people on drugs, that it was usually, not always, usually both and rather than either or. The drugs opened the doorway for those things to happen. And,
Absolutely, absolutely. I always go with the premise, cause and effect. There has to be a reason why people wind up in this type of condition. Where they have no control of their physical self. They're like so beyond do things so beyond understanding. Where they start hurting themselves and physically hurting themselves.
yeah. Well, it also, in one situation, I was working with well, she was out of her late teens, early 20s, and I thought I was making progress with her. And she grabbed an umbrella and tried to stab me with the umbrella. But I was very fast in my feet in my younger years. And but yes, and talking with her mother and stuff, she was not violent as a child, but after drug use, she became very violent in her behavior. And the last I saw of her, they kind of brought her back to the mental institution. She'd been in a halfway house with us, and she got violent again. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Well, okay. I think we kind of beat the subject up. What do you think, guys? Maybe we should go to the next question.
That'd be good.
Yeah, we can go to the next question. I do want to make a comment, though. I thought that was interesting that Dr. Adrian said that about people becoming around 25 years old of age when that happens. That's very interesting with schizophrenia. Okay, here's our next question. Okay, what is your view on soul fragmentation? And could demons explode? And could demons explode these fractures into one psyche?
I think demons could do anything they have a desire to do. They have superior abilities. They have stronger instincts in regards to how we're wired, if you will. And yeah, they can do anything, and they're very. It's very scary when you think about it. This is something you have no control over. I guess it really depends on your belief system too, but I believe this is a reality. Dr. Glenn, I know you have so much to say because can almost see the things, the wheels turning in your mind. So what's going on there?
Well, I still have a mind, so I'll be glad to share what I.
I suspected that. You know,
Yeah. Okay. That. Yes. I want to. I want to come from a different angle. Is that the demonic, in my experience, a particular demon, for example, has a certain bag of tricks, but he is not creative. Uh, it's a pattern he's used for centuries, but he doesn't try new ones. So I often run into the same demonic personality, for lack of a better word, and uses the same tricks because they work. And so why change your approach, which I'm not sure they're capable of? Change their approach if what you're doing is working. So that makes our job a little easier once we identify the demonic entities, who they are, and we've encountered them before. It's sort of like, oh yes, I remember him. This was his behavior patterns, and so in one sense, they're very powerful. They're not to be taken lightly. But in the other sense, as you work with enough people, you begin to see similar patterns
yeah,
of same kind. So you already know what their hidden deck is. And it's, like playing poker. You already can read their cards. So in one sense, that makes that it's sort of like I say to myself, "Oh, it's you again," and able to come against that in ways that I've found effective in the past.
yeah, yeah. A lot of people are not aware that demons have different personalities. They have different behavior
Absolutely.
actions that take place. Um, and in fact, I created this kind of fringe science, if you will, and it's demonic profiling and using the FBI techniques and just changing it to the supernatural element. And been doing this for over 3 decades. Yeah, almost 4 decades. Very successful, I might add, because they are different. They have different personalities. They do different things, and
Yes.
in regards to intelligence, they can do anything. They have superpowers. I can't emphasize this enough because they could do things. Time and space. They're not confined to, so they could go from one century to another in a second. They know all about you. They even know some of your future because they're able to even go into the future if they wanted to do this. This is, of course, really debated. But the point is that you can't put anything against a demon. One thing we do know for sure is that they're liars, and they will do whatever they can to to divert you and to confuse you, to create chaos in your life. And so we just have to be aware of these things.
Yes. I
So
would
what?
say, I would say,
Yeah,
in an exorcism, we talked about it before. you never do that alone. You have your team
No,
around
absolutely.
you, and you have people maybe in the next room also praying.
That's
And
right.
but I have to warn people about who are going to be on a team is
Each
don't
team member should be very strong in their faith, because it seems
yes
like doctors will go to the weakest link. And when that happens, that could cause all kinds of chaos within the group. And
yes
so,
right. And what they'll do sometimes they'll and some of the team members will say they'll bring up a nasty thing that the team member has done in the past,
yeah,
and so that really intimidates the team member who has his secrets unfold.
that's right.
And I don't know where I picked it up. It wasn't mine originally, but I'll say to the demon, you don't need to worry about us. You need to worry about Jesus because he's the one who's going to drive you out. And yeah, so yeah, it's
I've had the same demon from one case to another. The same personality of that demon would come back, let's say a week later, a month later, a year later, and so I could almost tell you that I could almost identify at least 20 personalities in
yeah.
regards to what to expect in this kind of demonic possession, in its behavior itself. What do you have to say about this, Dr. Adrian? I mean, what do you think? What are your thoughts, as a
Well,
scientist?
I'm listening to you, and during your
Yeah.
incisive explanations, I get my own, and I can share them with you. Throughout life, I was very interested in God, but I was interested in spiritual things and what we call nowadays parapsychology. And the way I see the devil is the way all people are. There are 8 billion people in the world. They have different personalities. So do these entities that you call devil. Yeah, I may call it evil, devil, whatever. Doesn't matter the name. The essence of them remains the same. And they are composed of uh, fragments in thoughts. Everything is a thought. Like God started everything with a thought, like
Yeah.
whether it be light or whatever. So there are good thoughts like God's thoughts, and there are bad thoughts like people's thoughts. God doesn't have bad thoughts. So thoughts have been demonstrated to have a body of ethereal essence that can be even photographed with skill and photography, high intensity, uh, electrical field photography, and they appear on a plaque, a photographic plaque. If you want to demonstrate them, you go to a concrete one, not an abstract one. It's very hard. You get a cloud. But let's say you think about seven, the, the number seven, or the letter M, and you send it to your friend in another room a mile away, and it's a photographic plug there of Killian photography. He puts the finger on it, and you send the thought. You concentrate the friends into each other's thoughts, and you get on that photographic plaque the the number seven and the number M, and it was demonstrated. So, Dr. Thelma Moss at UCLA, when they permitted to do that, when everything wasn't just focused on science, the way they see it, a concrete one that cannot be disputable. But anyway, um, thoughts have a body. They are not for nothing. And people have thoughts. Now there are good people, bad people. People have the choice for good and evil. So there are some that had a very bad experience in different lifetimes,
Hmm.
because I believe in reincarnation that so many people believe in the world, and they accumulate not only maturity of soul or immaturity. Usually, the immature ones are more susceptible to get evilness choices in life
Hmm.
through
Hmm.
their free choice. And all these thoughts are going in the world that are sticking to 8 billion people like to cotton candy.
Mhm.
And sometimes they are incorporating this personality or that personality, and we call it devil with different personalities. So, but everything is composed of thought, and I think that's why you go to very bad areas with crime and all this, and the air is thick. You know, it's something in the air that is not comfortable, and
Yeah,
you go to a place like a church or a temple, or it is so relaxing, so pleasant, right?
that's
Because the
right.
thoughts are positive.
Yep. Yep. Collectively, depending as to who occupies. I was going to ask you a question, Dr. Adrian, about you're a man of science, but you're also a man who also knows about spiritual matters. How do you approach evil? Do you see it as a human condition, or do you see it more of a spiritual type of scenario where you really can't explain where it comes and where it goes and what its intentions are? I mean, what are your feelings about that as a scientist and a spiritual believer?
As a scientist, I raise my hands and I say, the so-called science, the way it's defined nowadays in our society, you cannot do much in the. It's very hard to rehabilitate these people, even if they are arrested, if they are criminally insane, or but we're talking about the devil, the incorporation into the devil of so many bad thoughts in the world
Yeah.
that gives different personalities. The only solution is to bring people back to God. I have a book I wrote, Back to God, Finding Joy in Divine Union. And that's what is I was telling people that, you know, I was going to the hospital to see patients the other day. And, you know, and they asked me, "Oh, Dr. Finkelstein, you're still working. You're 87, and we understand." And I said, "Well, God forgot me intentionally here, I guess."
Yeah. I'd like to add something. Doctor, is the doctor through? I'd like to add something.
Yes, I believe so.
My observation is that as I work with people who have been on drugs for a while and talk with their families about what they used to be, um, overuse of drugs seem to cause a personality change. That even if they got rehabilitated from the drugs, there still was a change in the way they function, the way their brain function. I don't know if
Yeah,
scientifically that is true, but observation wise, that's what I've seen.
I started saying something and wanted to continue if possible. But what I want to say is that they asked me then, so what is the solution, Dr. Finkelstein? There's so many problems in the world, and they are watching TV because now they are in hospitals. They have a TV screen, so they see the horrible news. So I say, when I was a younger doctor, I was taught how to listen to the heart. And I put my ear to the heart. That time we didn't use a stethoscope like we do now. We used it, but we use the ear also, the old style. So I heard look to, look to, look to. The heart is beating. So nowadays at this age, um, when I listen to the heart in my mind or physically, I hear love God, love God, love God, God love, God love. That's the solution. So we don't know. I mean, diagnosis we may make of many, many personalities, but the solution is one, simple. There are not billions of solutions. It's simple. Yeah, we have to do our best to categorize in the science and the earth we live on earth, but we always have to connect and to let God in us with all our heart
Yeah.
help in any bad solution. When I see I don't have any solution, the doctor told me I'm going to die of cancer. And what do I do? What do I do? That's a real situation that so many people
I have
encounter.
a perfect situation for that. Okay, if your doctor tells you that you may be dying of cancer, the most easiest thing to do is just simply find another doctor, and then
Yeah,
if
and I
that
have
doesn't
the
work, find
greatest of
another
doctors,
doctor.
God. Yeah, well, no, I'm just giving an example. It's not me,
Yeah,
but it's just I'm getting patients that are miserable. I mean, they're desperate, and I see them day by day. I don't see only violent patients, but I see very sad patients. People are lonely. People feel nobody's there. I had an old man that said, "I feel alone. I feel very depressed. Dr. Finkelstein, help me." And I have five daughters, but no one visits with me. And I said, "What did they call you?" No, they don't call me. When did they visit the last time? 3 months ago. I don't know. One of them. So, so I said, people feel lonely, and the older you get, you go, you become sick, and you are in the hospitals with doctors, right? So this is a very common solution. We have to be together like the fingers of the hand, a strong fist to love each other.
absolutely right. Absolutely right. You have any last words on that, Dr. Glenn? Or
No,
do
I think it's been well covered. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's interesting when we have this panel. Okay, we come up with all kinds of interesting ideas, and our perceptions are so crystal clear in regards to what we say, and that's why I think this panel is very helpful for many people who have all kinds of issues, and at least we'll give them information as to what they could do possibly. Mercedes, are there any more questions, or do we have time for another question or two?
There, we have several extra questions, but there was one on the chat that is very interesting, and I don't think you covered it. And it says, when you run into the same demon, will they identify as the previous name as well?
Yes,
Hmm.
yes, but
Yeah,
understand when that demon doesn't mean it's by itself. Sometimes they hang around in packs.
right.
Okay, and so and I'm sure you know about legions. They love to congregate, and they're stronger. They feel they're stronger in numbers, and little do they know that we have a solution that could defeat them, and that's through the various rituals that we do. But yeah, and I could tell based on what's being said and how things are happening.
Yeah,
It's very sometimes it's hard to explain because you have to be there to actually see what's going on.
yeah. There's a certain, just like with human personalities,
Yeah.
demons have
Yes.
certain ways and personalities of acting. Uh,
Exactly.
they they have fixed plans of attack,
Yeah.
and you can almost identify, mostly can identify the demons by the way they're attacking the person.
Yeah.
So that's what I found. So I
Very
said,
true.
oh,
Very, very true. I mean, as I said, I teach on this subject, where there are actually, it's a fringe science, but it's actually a science where we talk about profiling the behavior of a demonic entity and what it
sure,
actually does to the victim, because the victim is tormented, and you cannot every tormented poor soul is different than everyone else. Okay, it's like it's their own unique way of being tortured and being tormented, and it's a very serious and very scary if you're not familiar with this type of scenario. But
yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think a positive thing is that as you get enough experience, uh, you don't have to do a lot of searching to see who and what the demon is, because by his behavior, you'll say, "Oh, that's so and so,"
yeah.
and so that helps in terms of the kind of way you're going to approach the exorcisms and the treatment of that person. So,
One of the most important things though is that it could be the same demon, but you may even know the name of the demon. But guess what? You may know the name. The demon has to be the one who reveals itself by name.
Yeah.
So even though you may profile the behavior of a demonic entity, you still have to go through the process and get the name out so they would actually say it in order to release the soul.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's helpful to know even beforehand what you're dealing with.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
well, I'm not an exorcist, but I did some spirit releasement. Spirit releasement means something similar in the entities that possessed the person that was schizophrenic happened to have a name, each of them, and we got them convinced to leave the person. I think I mentioned in a previous
That's an
podcast.
exorcism, by the
Yeah.
way. What that process is.
Yeah.
That's referred to as an exorcism. You identify the entity and you tell them to leave, and
Yes.
of course, it helps. When you use the name of God, and it certainly it irritates them to a point. They don't want to leave. They've made themselves comfortable in that victim's body, and wants to destroy that victim, from the inside out. So it doesn't really want to leave. So there's a lot of resistance. But if you could do that, that's fantastic. That's an exorcism. Exorcism is driving out a demon, and
Yeah, I told them you have to go to the light and you know
in their case, to the
it's not
darkness.
your place here. Anyway,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah, I had to do it the right way. You do it with a fist. I do it more with diplomacy. But I appreciate what you're doing, your work, and God bless you for it.
Yeah. Well, God bless the people that come to us for help. There's so many people that won't even come to us because their pastor told them, "Well, you don't believe in demons. That's something that happened many hundreds of years ago. They're not real. It's just a figment of your imagination." And a lot of pastors have actually done that. A lot of clergy, they have a problem because this thing called mental illness and the psychology of it, the psychiatry of it, it now can be explained. But let me say this: out of all the exorcisms that we have done as a group, um, there is a very large percentage that winds up in a mental institution, especially if we're not successful. If we're not successful in the ritual, they will wind up eventually either that or in jail because their behavior would be so outlandish. They could do so many things, um, and they have to be confined. And years ago, before what was it, Proposition? I can't remember, Proposition 3 or um, back in the early '70s, late '60s, they started closing down mental health
Yep.
institutions because of the funding. And so you had all these people that appeared to be crazy out there wandering. And I always remember, and this is true even today, that there are some hospitals and convalescent hospitals as well that will actually discharge their patient and just leave them in the street. And
Well,
because they have no financial benefit for keeping them, so they'll just drop them off in Skid Row, okay, and let them fend for themselves. And these are probably the most severe cases of severe mental illness that you will see, and especially if they're violent. It's crazy the way the world is.
well, that's what's wrong
the
with the
way
world.
psychiatrically can stop this by stopping the pathway in the nervous system in the brain that transmits the impulse that is sick, evil. But the impulse remains there, but it's not transmitted, so it's not expressed. So that's the only way. When people become like zombies. So if you do only that, you have to do some psychotherapy, some socialization, some other things. But the results are very, very limited.
In the very recent past, and I say in the '50s, they still did lobotomies where they would actually take an instrument, place it in the side of their eye, and actually pound with a little instrument and try to deactivate a portion of their brain, and by doing so, they would wind up, as Doctor Adrian says, they wind up like zombies because that portion of
Yeah.
the brain. You tamper with the brain. I
Yeah,
mean, correct me if I'm mistaken, Doctor. If we don't even know the full capacity of the brain.
Before that, they used shock treatment.
Serletin Bini, two Italian psychiatrists in 1922 discovered the ECT, electroshock treatment.
Yeah.
And you say it in One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest. You saw that,
Whoa.
but they perfected this method, and there were very good results because the devil cannot stay there; it's afraid of that. Get that jolt, It's like
Wow.
exorcism, and
Wow.
but they were very successful. And at my time when I was younger, it was given a lot, and with the best results, even better than with the drugs. And but there were other problems because the mental acuity would be, lower that way, and that's not good. So we didn't come up with something extraordinary, but just to keep things under control as much as possible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
Interesting. I think we're over our time. Of course, we were a little late anyway, but um, is that
Okay,
right, Mercedes?
yes, and I just wanted to check and make sure Glenn was able to finish his thought on that too. Dr.
Yes.
Glenn.
Yeah, sure. I'm fine. That's okay.
Okay. Yep, we're good then. We've come to our hour and 5 minutes after.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. uh, I pray that everyone who tuned in today was able to get something from the program. I apologize for some of the technical issues, but I could explain that. It could be the darkness that's trying to interfere with us once again because of the message we're trying to give out. It's a very good possibility, and that's very possible. I pray that all of you are blessed by God and protected by God. I pray that you will have the opportunity to invite a relative, maybe a friend who may be going through some difficulties and may want to listen to our program. They might get something out of it. Um, I'm going to close with a prayer, and all I could say is that God be with you, and God bless you. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Amen. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our defense against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly hosts, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all the other evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruins of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Well, that's it. Good night, guys, and thank you for being with us. God bless. Peace be with you.
Good night,
Ciao.
everyone.
Okay. I guess that's the end, isn't it? We're all the way.
Maybe we're here for eternity.
Oh my God.
Still going,
I'm
actually.
ready. I'm ready to be here for that. If God wants me to be here longer, I'll be here longer. Heck, what the heck?
I
Uh,
honestly think we're definitely still going.
we're still going. Go
Honestly,
Yeah,
ahead.
I guess we're off the air now, right?
no, I think we're still live, but I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I guess God intentionally forgot us here.
That's it. God forgot to turn the button and
Yeah.
hit the
The
button.
only other thing I wanted to say about, and I worked in one of those old hospitals uh, back in the 50s and 60s, but they did use a lot of shock treatment, as like you mentioned, Doc. But what I noticed is it not only knocked out some things, it also they were impaired mentally to some degree after that with the electric shock
Yeah,
treatments. It had some very negative effects
very
also.
good.
I know one patient I would see, oh my goodness, had 50 or 60 electric shock treatments. The person was like a zombie. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, could you imagine being in that condition? You're a prisoner in your own body. You don't have the ability to talk. You don't have the ability to look. you're a paraplegic, and you're right there, complete paralysis all over, and you're in an environment where you can't communicate with the outside world.
When I first went, it was the in Milledgeville, Georgia, the Milledgeville Mental Hospital. It was like one flew over the cuckoo's nest. And I was just a young fella at seminary, and I was being trained as a chaplain there. And they assigned me all by myself to be a chaplain and spend my day with about 50 catatonic schizophrenic men. And I thought,
Wow.
what do I do? They won't talk to me. Right? It was just, I thought, it was an overwhelming experience for a young guy, but
Do you know
nice.
that I was going to say, in my experience, even those people that are apparently appear to be like a vegetable, if you will, if you remember that term, um, I still believe they have conscious thought. I mean, they
I would talk to them anyway, even if they didn't talk back. Yeah.
yeah, yep, they didn't talk back, but they heard every word you said. And they saw, and I'm sure they witnessed everything. You pick your nose or scratch your bum, and I'm sure they've seen it all. Okay, you did some other things that would be kind of orthodoxy.
Yeah,
This
I
is
was teaching students, and they were approaching catatonics, and I told them, "Be careful because they don't do anything, and all of a sudden they may hit you."
Yeah.
So, and someone I remember was hit very badly by one of them, but they didn't listen to me, and they thought, well, they don't do anything; they're catatonic. All of a sudden, boom, they come out.
Yeah.
Wow.
When I was on a woman's ward, that happened to me, and she snuck up behind me and literally tried to ram her fist up my bottom. And
really.
that hurt. And I said, "Why'd you do that?" She said, "I always wanted to goose a minister." So
Oh my gosh, boy! I'm
I
telling
hope
you.
we're not on the air.
I hate to tell you, but there are a lot of ministers that actually like that practice. If
Well,
we're
I
out there, this is what you call an after party. What is it called? The after party segment. You
yeah,
know, so we're
and
not really supposed to be on the air, but here we
yeah,
are.
we are. So I do know that Des is trying to get back on, but she's told me to signal her when we're finished. But I didn't see that because I was on the working. So I can go ahead and signal her to go ahead and close us right now. Okay. So
Let's say
hopefully it will
I'll
happen.
say goodbye in case anyone else is
Yeah,
listening,
keep going.
and and peace be with you all.
And also with you.
Thank you.
So it may take a few minutes, but I
Oh,
guess if you're on the bus in Hawaii somewhere, I guess it's a little bit harder to do this work. So
I hope
but
they didn't
anyway, but I thought it was interesting
tired.
while we're still going. I thought it was interesting about the that you're saying that they used to give people injections for this when they had mental problems. They would get injections.
Well, for you mean for lobotomy? For the
Or,
lobotomy, they would put a spoke like right in the corner of your eye, and they'd pound it, and it'd go into your brain, and instantly you'd be a zombie almost, and you know what? Back then, I think they suspense this whole operation back in 1952. I mean, it was just recent. Can you believe that? I mean, the medical community was actually doing this barbaric procedure, um, and that's amazing. That's just been, disbanded recently. Well,
But
1952.
I want to add something very important, I think, because I may have given a gloomy picture of what psychiatry and these very sick people uh, go through, and what we can do, which is very, very limited. But that doesn't mean that there is no way forward if we use more spiritual psychiatry,
mm,
because that has to do with God, and with God everything is possible. And in my
take this moment to invite those that are needing help from these incredible people on this panel, these experts that deal with all of these issues. We invite you Desiree and I are here to take your messages, and I'm sure Desiree we can go ahead and give them out the email and things that they
Yes.
need. We do invite you to please send in your information so we can help you.
And for the information that you'd like is to give, we'd like to give you is